Welcome to Navigating the Residency Interview Workshop. We've been doing this for some time now. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome all of you. I can see all the enthusiasm, and so many of you are attending, some of you across time zones, I think. We have three phenomenal speakers here. Our first speaker is Dr. Natasha Chida, who is the program director of the Osler Medical Residency at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, Baltimore, Maryland. She's an associate professor of medicine. So, welcome, Dr. Chida. Um, and then I have Dr. Robert Dobbin Chow. He's the chair of medicine and the program director at the University of Maryland Medical Center, Midtown campus in Baltimore, Maryland. He's a professor in medicine. And then we have Dr. Ravitej KhunKhun, Associate Program Director, Medical Clerkship Site Director for the George Washington School of Medicine, Sinai Hospital of Baltimore. He's also part of the Clinical Problem Solvers Executive Leadership Team. So welcome all of you. Waiting and eager to start this. Before we start, few housekeeping. Everyone's going to remain muted except the speaker. We ask that you please put your questions in the chat. We shall do all the questions in the end just so that we can give time for all the speakers to go through their respective slides. We will be monitoring the chat and we will be making sure that everyone's question is answered. And hopefully we'll have about 15 minutes of time in the end for answering questions. Please ask generic questions. It's very difficult to go to individual specific questions that may not be able to be answered. And I also would like to have Dr. Colleen Christmas, who is the governor of the Maryland ACP chapter, to say a few words before we get started.
So delighted to see so many students here. I'm getting ready for the residency interview season coming up. And I'm just so thrilled that we have experts to answer your questions, to give you an overview, and to really help guide you through the process. The Maryland ACP is so supportive of all the students coming in and really want to help you be successful. So just offering our services in any way we can be useful to you as you go through the process. Thank you so much to the faculty who are leading the discussion tonight. And I'm going to stay silent for the rest of the discussion. Thank you all.
Hey, before we start, we should introduce our moderator, Dr. Deepak. She failed to introduce herself. She's the esteemed pulmonary critical care faculty at University of Maryland. She is the upcoming governor for the ACP chapter. Very excited for her upcoming term. She's also the queen of medical jeopardy. Let that be known. She wears that crown proudly. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Chow. Okay, so Ravi, are you going first then? Yeah.
I am starting, and then I'll hand it over to Dr. Chow, who'll go through navigating the interview, and then Dr. Chida will take over at the end. So welcome, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Janaki Deepak, for that great introduction. So before we get underway, none of the speakers have any relationships with any entity producing, marketing, reselling, or distributing of any healthcare goods or services. Views expressed by the speakers do not represent the views of the ACP. And thank you to Doctors Robert Dobbin Chow and Pahal Dave for sharing their materials that we're using today. And the agenda today, so I will start with the pre-interview preparation that many of you are currently going through, and then we'll go through what the interview day will look like, and then post-interview processing, and then we'll hold a question and answer session at the end. So to begin with, this is pretty much the timeline that all of you are currently undergoing. If you look here, we started kind of like in summer, spring, with working on personal statements. I don't know, many of you may have received personal statements from some of your students trying to get some feedback and advice, but we're currently in September, in the fall, where applicants are currently submitting applications to programs. IRAS opened up September 4th. And then the other platform that all of the students must register for is NRMP, which will allow you to formulate your rank order list and all of that other stuff. So September 15 or 16, I think it opens up. So do remember that date. And then moving on, September 28th is when all of the programs are going to start downloading all your fabulous material. And then interviews will be sent out at that time. So around November to January, you'll have interviews. So some students get nervous. They're like waiting for interviews or interview invites. I would say give all of us time around late early October to even into November, December. We send interview invites out. And then February 24, you need to, this is absolutely vital, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, finalize and submit your rank order list. There have been people that have missed this deadline and that they can't enter the match. So every time you make a change in the rank order list, you then have to certify, and that way you'll be enrolled in the rank for that season. And then March 16th, match week begins. People will find out if they matched or not. You won't know which institutions you matched at, but you'll know if you didn't. And then SOAP opens for those applicants. And then March 20th, 2026, hopefully everybody gets great news that they match somewhere. So looking at the ERAS application for 2026, so what will be key is what programs are you going to apply to? So all of you should be wondering, it's kind of getting late in the game because we're in the second week, and then next week, a lot of the programs will start to download your material. So you need to find out which kind of programs you want to go to. Do you want to go to community? Do you want to go to community/university programs or university programs? Do you want to be in a certain geographical location? Do you have family? Do you have support in those areas? Certain programs may have research that you may be interested in. Some institutions may be stronger in, say, I want to go into a particular field like hem-onc or cardiology. And all of these you need to consider. And there are some certain programs that are affiliated with medical schools as well. So you have these hybrids, community/university programs as well. So you need to do a lot of research looking at, I would look at Residency Explorer. I just took a little portion, paste at the bottom, and you see all this data from last year. So you can see how many spots in each program that they're matching for. And then what kind of score interval do they take? Scores could be step 2 scores, 2 something to 250, maybe the range. And you can see if that fits your metrics. And then you can also see if they take a certain number of US graduates. We have some international medical graduates here as well. And also how many of these programs took or sent out interviews for people that signaled them. Signals, we'll talk about gold, silver, and then non-signaling as well. So some programs may have taken 40% or 40% invites sent out for those people that signaled them gold, 30% that signaled them silver, and then the rest would be non-signaled applicants. So you want to have a look. So if you did not signal a program and they only took less than 1%, you have a very slim chance of getting an interview from that program. So do your homework. Hints for completing the ERAS application. So when you go in those boxes, you can download a PDF template, and in the template, it has boxes, and you can start filling out all the different descriptors, like all your experiences, everything that's in your CV. And you want to put in certain things. You want to put facts. So you don't want to put anything that may actually be brought up in the interview that could also affect you as well. You want to keep it simple. Don't use very, 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 very difficult vocabulary, because a lot of us want to read what you have to say and don't want to then be sort of slipped up by what's being mentioned in the narrative that you're describing. So don't assume readers know what you mean. If you volunteered, say, at a clinic, what kind of duties did you do? So express all the different characteristics of the experience that you're describing. Explain appointed versus selected positions. So if there's a research position, how did you get into that research position? what certain attributes did you have that got you into that position as well. And then also you're able to input certain research manuscripts and articles and things like that. So you want to put all that information in as well. And then distinguish between volunteer and paid experiences. So a lot of our medical students do scribing. They love scribing. It's a great experience. So you want to put down if it's work or if you did a volunteer, maybe an ombudsman volunteer position. So you want to also put that was an unpaid position. So you want to discriminate between those different positions. And then also explain certain attributes that you have, sort of strengths, research techniques, the skills that you may have acquired when working in a research position. You also may want to just put down, hey, I'm familiar with Epic or I'm familiar with Cerner, so those EMR systems that you work with. Also, any volunteerism that you've done working with NGOs, going abroad, even in a city. I mean, do list those because those are the experiences that define you. So we do want to know those. And also put in the hours per week that you spent on this. Pay attention to the dates. And also the hobbies portion was actually taken out 2 years ago. So they brought it back. And you do have the ability to put in certain experiences and hobbies. So do put hobbies that you're passionate about. Don't just list, maybe people put, I love to watch Netflix. And because it's what I unwind to, but maybe put down what show maybe in Netflix that you like. It might strike up a conversation with an interviewer. They may like the same show that you like as well. So moving on, the sections to this application, we had the experiences. So you have 10 experiences, meaningful experiences. Then 3 of those are going to be defined from those 10, and then you're going to have 1 impactful. So you have about 14 experiences that you elaborate on. The 10 is going to be anywhere from research to volunteerism to teaching opportunities. If you've done any teaching whilst you're in medical school, any organizations you work with, NGOs, things like that. And then you want to elaborate on those 10, but 3 meaningful experiences. So those 3 boxes, you're going to then explain why they're of importance to you and how do they define your journey through the application process. And then you take one of them, which really does make an impact to your journey. So we want to know, have you had any struggles, your story, any journey to get to where you are, any struggles that you've had, financial issues, educational issues. Maybe you had difficulty with exams. You can actually elaborate on that as well. Then comes geographic preference. So you do have 3 areas where you can geographically maybe highlight, maybe I want to be in this area, but we'll elaborate on that as well. And then we have program signals. So we'll also talk about that as well. So moving on, the geographic regions that you prefer, up to 3 regions. Now I get this question, I'm sure we're going to get this question later. What if I'm not located or I'm not bound to one area? Can I just put no geographic preference? You can, but you want to also explain why you don't want to choose a geographic location. If you want to choose one area, say the Northeast, Massachusetts, and so on, why do you want to go there? Maybe you have family, maybe you have a connection there, maybe you work there as well. Also, you want to elaborate again on those 10 experiences, 3 most meaningful, and then we'll move on to the preference signal. So the 15 programs that are tiered as 3 gold and 12 silver. About 2 years ago, there were 7 signals that you had, but there was no discerning as gold or silver. But these will be very, very key. You have to be very strategic in deciding what programs to give these signals to. These are like your golden tickets to make a connection to a program. And we'll see why these are really, really important, how they affected the match last year. And then moving on, so looking at experiences. So in the 2024 match data, what were the top experiences that people discussed in those boxes on the ERAS application? So 20% was medical education, 19% was research, 15% community experience, 7% improving access to healthcare. So maybe QI projects, 5% public health, and 4% basic science research experience. So some of you may be thinking, what should I put in there? There's many, many different things that you can put in those boxes. We kind of jumped a bit, but let's go back. So, all right, next one is kind of reiterating again the 10 experiences, but I've already gone over that. The impactful experiences, please tell us your story. We are very interested in who you are, not just the metrics that you bring to the table, because we can see that on your CV. Geographic preference, again, it just use the geographic preference if it's important to you to be, maybe say you want to go back home, maybe you're on the West Coast. West Coast can be very popular. So maybe use that and explain why do you want to go home, maybe because that's home base for you. So it gives you an opportunity to maybe become competitive in that area for all those other programs as well. And again, if you're not bound to that area, so you see how it's all split up into these geographic preferences. So kind of interesting. Our area is lopped in with Florida, different climates, Puerto Rico as well. And then you have the West Coast and Alaska, and then you have the Midwest as well. So 3 of those areas you can pick. But if you don't want to, if you feel like you can go anywhere, do elaborate on that. That way it's not held against you. So looking at the data again, 2024, 80% of internal medicine applicants listed one or more geographic preferences. The reasons why: to be close to family, friends, maybe location of a desired program, previous ties to a region, or lifestyle factors. So some people like the outdoors. So going to maybe Colorado, Midwest, and those areas may be of interest to you as well. And again, we talked about hobbies and interests. So do list hobbies that you actually do. Be careful. Don't put in any hobbies that you kind of know superficially, because if that becomes a topic of conversation, you may come across a faculty member that may know spelunking or some activity like that and may ask you more. So you really do want to know what you're putting down as well. So goals for program signaling. This is where you really have to do your research. So you look at your application, determine how competitive it is. Look at the programs, research in particular states what programs they are, see how many spots they have. Look at Residency Explorer and see if your application matches those programs, and then decide which programs you're going to apply to. If your application is middle of the road, you want to then at least choose sort of safety net hospitals that way you think, or programs that way you think you'll be competitive. If you strive for reach programs, you may be out of contention, and that might end up limiting your chances for interviews at those programs too. So the other thing that came into this signaling was home program as well. So say I rotated at a program, and now about 2 years ago, I didn't have to stay that program because they already know me, but now I need to use one of my signals for that program as well. Okay, I think if I push this button, it keeps skipping forward. Looking at data, so interesting, like 2 years ago, we had seven signals. And if you look at the signaled programs, or the conversion of signal to interviews, it was much higher in those ones that use signaled, or people use signals for. They got more interviews. If you didn't signal a program, less interview or conversion to an interview. If you look at last year's data as well, looking at this box graph here, if you used a gold signal, you had a higher chance of getting an interview. Silver, slightly lower chance. But if you didn't signal, about 3 to 5% chance of getting an interview. So this is very key. Your strategy has to be airtight in this. So this is where I'm imploring all of my student advisees to spend time trying to figure out which program's really going to be thinking about them, or they're going to be in contention for getting interviews and eventually matching to. And you really have to reflect on how your application is, because if you consider, like, everybody has an idea, maybe they want to go to those reach programs, but if you don't have a great CV in this case, you do have to wonder, you do have to reflect and reach apply to the programs where you will be competitive and where you will have a higher chance of getting an interview. Winding down to the last few slides, how do programs select applicants for interviews? So it's kind of difficult. I think now we all of the programs, Dr. Dobbin, Chow here, Dr. Chida probably have experienced this now as well, that all programs have to tell applicants either on their website, Residency Explorer, how will they consider signals. So signals, you could kind of see through Residency Explorer the data, how many applicants that signaled were invited for an interview. So you can see that on Residency Explorer. So we have to inform you how we will consider signals in the application process or the invitation for interview as well. So if we consider just everybody that he sends us a gold or signal, gold or silver signal, then if you don't give us a signal, much less chance of getting an interview in that case. And then the other thing is also it is a holistic process. As you get those gold and silver signals, we do have to go through and look at all those applications. It's stuck here. Oh, are you able to forward? I'm not able to forward from here now. Oh, there we go. Okay. Had to press a couple of times. So looking at data again from 2024 has a lot of data here for us to use. So looking at, if you look at how programs took all these interviews or took all these applications, you have a certain number of applications, 2,000 plus, and then the number of applications out of those that were reviewed and then rejected, and then how many were invited for interview here, and then out of that, how many were considered for a match. So you see it goes from the number of applications down to number of applications reviewed, invites sent, and then those that were rejected and those that were put on the rank order list, which is the last bar graph here. And then the percentage of programs using the USMLE to select US MD applicants to interview. So there is data here, like how many programs look at now we only have one data metric, which is step 2. So how do programs integrate in sending invites for interviews? How do they use the USMLE to set or to determine which applicants get invited for the interviews? So now send it over to Dr. Dobbin Chow to go over preparing for the virtual interviews. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was very comprehensive. A lot of information there. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll try to get through them best we can. I'm going to try to talk about the interviews. There's some nuances here related to the virtual interview. This is a slide from Sapna Cool. The position of the camera related to your eyes matter. Try to keep the camera, make the camera be at eye level. And if you don't, and you're looking down at the camera, then there's a weird perspective that the monitor will have, and it'll look like you are sort of looking down at somebody. So it's much nicer to have a eye-to-eye view. All right, so I tried this in my setup here, and then I had to raise my camera up on like a thing, and then during the interview, during the interview, it totally collapsed and fell, made a big noise. It wasn't good. Okay, so try to turn off your cell phone. You keep I recommend you keep a notepad next to you to write down notes to yourself, and keep your CV next to you. It's possible that the person that you're talking to, the person that you're interviewing with, is referring to something in your CV that it's good to have it handy. And also, if you have publications, have those publications available next to you. You may be interviewing with somebody and they say, I want to refer you to your publication that you did last year. And they may want to ask you a question about it. Sometimes they want to see how well how familiar you are with that project. So if you have your publication available right next to you, that would help. Okay. Um, if you have the ability to engage in mock interviews, that's good. Practice it. Even if you have a mock interview with one of your friends, practice it because it forces you to answer some tough questions. It's easier to answer questions that are concrete, that are absolute, that you. But when they ask you qualitative type of questions, just forcing you to articulate your thoughts in a clear and yet concise way, that can be a challenge. Record yourself talking during the mock interview. You'll find that you may engage in some unconscious speech patterns, and it'd be good to recognize that and see if you can eliminate those. I'm going to share with you some common questions and some interview techniques. But most importantly, be engaged, be present during the interview, be authentic, uh, be energetic, be enthusiastic. Um, there is someone made the recommendation. Someone asked, when should you schedule? What time of the interview season is the best time to interview for a preferred program? And I don't know that there's a correct answer on this. Is it true that if you interview really early in the season, that the program will forget all about you when it comes time to ranking? Or if you interview really late in the season, is the program so worn out um, and dulled by all the great applicants that they have that you that maybe you won't come across positively? I don't know. I'm not sure that there's a strong recommendation one way or the other. So maybe in the middle of the season is probably a good time. The only thing I would say is if you're the a program that you're really interested in, that you really want to go to, it might be good for you to have some interview experience under your belt. That maybe that may not be the best program to interview first, because when it's the first one, there's always some uh, tough questions. Maybe there's some challenges that you might face, and it's good to sort of get some experience under your belt before you tackle the one that you really want to go to. Um, I would use a football analogy there, but I'm not going to. It's not a good football day here in Baltimore. Okay, so the interview itself, you try to know what to expect during the interview day. You Some programs will give you a heads up, and the more you can anticipate, the less stress it is for you. Who do you have to impress? It's everyone from the residency coordinator to the residents that sometimes participate in the interview day. It's Everyone will have input on your candidacy. If you do something to irritate or put off the residency coordinator, your application will sink like a rock. They can make a big difference. Um, uh, who should you have immediate? What should you access to? I talked about your CV and your publications. Um, so programs are looking for the right fit. They're looking for residents they want to work with, residents they want to mentor, residents that will fit the culture of their program. So yes, personality that does matter. I've s- I've I have to say in my over my time, I've done a few interviews, and it's been interesting. Some people they relax. They're sitting slouching back in their chair. They're I'm not sure how interested they are in our program. It feels like we may be like 10th on their list. and they're just mailing it in. They're coming to us because they got invited. On the other hand, someone who's leaning forward, they're obviously interested, they have passion, they have enthusiasm, they've read about our program on the website. Hey, that may be someone that we'd love to have. They want to come to us. So having that enthusiasm, that passion, that energy makes a difference. So what not to ask? I would not ask the program director about hey, how much does the salary go up from the first year to the second year? Do I get time off to um, if I go to if I need to go to a wedding? Those kinds of things you can ask the chief resident. Does how many patients do I get when I'm on when I'm on call? What's my service size? How many patients am I covering on the weekend? I wouldn't get into all of that. Instead, ask questions that are more general. That are more about the curriculum, more about the learning experience, and what your interests are. What is the program trying to learn during the interview about? It's about whether you're the right fit. They get a lot of good candidates, and they want to see whether you're someone that is going to fit their program, with whether you fit the culture. And then you interview with several faculty, and each of those faculty are going to ask you at the end of their 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes during their time with you. At the end, they're going to say, "Hey, do you have any questions?" And it's good to have some questions. If you say no, I don't have any questions, um, that doesn't necessarily go well. Uh, so what do? Do not go to the internet and find canned questions to ask when they say, "Do you have any questions?" That doesn't play well either. So try to come up with specific questions, questions that are maybe specific to that faculty member or specific to the program. And so what does that require? That requires you doing some research the night before, reading over the website, looking over things, and then maybe you'll have some questions based on what the content of the website describes in terms of the curriculum, the training experience. Um, when you when the faculty member talks to the applicant, and the applicant talks about their past experiences, what they've accomplished, it can get hey, it can get a little boring, but because they like to focus on, hey, what's this applicant going to do if they are a resident here? What they're trying to project in their mind, what is this resident going to do if they were in my program? And that takes some imagination, takes some creativity on behalf of the faculty member. This is where you come in. You help them with that process of imagining you as a resident there. How would you take advantage of the resources there? Who would you seek mentorship from? What would your trajectory be like? And trying to imagine that's the more fun exercise. Okay. Okay. So dress. Wear a suit. I don't know what I don't know what to tell a woman how to dress, but wear a suit. And for men, don't do this thing where you wear a suit and a tie and nice shirt, and then you're wearing your pajamas and your bedroom slippers. No, don't do that. Why is that? Because you're you're okay. You're fooling the person who's looking at you through the lens of a camera, but I want you to be whole. I want you have integrity. That when you're wearing your entire suit, you're wearing your dress shoes, even though no one's looking at your shoes, but you're gonna feel like you're there. You're going to feel like this is, I am, I'm entirely engaged. This is me. I'm not just half-hearted. That you're, well, that you're totally on board. S- there's if yeah, just try to be to have a project a positive energy and someone that someone will want to meet and talk with. Now, how does that work? Well, oh, um, so here's maybe I left this part out. There's a Amy Cuddy video on TED Talks, Cuddy. It's gotten 25 million hits, and she talks about nonverbal communication, and so imagine this. Imagine that you are gonna go and play a soccer match, and before you go to the soccer match, you're sitting in the dugout or the clubhouse, and are you sitting there on your phone playing a game? No, you're getting yourself psyched up, and you're getting energized, and that's what you should do before an interview. You go to the bathroom or you go to your closet, you look at yourself in the mirror, you say, "Yes, I can do this." And you get yourself jazzed up, you get excited, and then you sit down and you say and you nail it. So for 20 minutes, have that energy, have that enthusiasm, have that passion, like you're going to run out onto that soccer field and kick that winning goal. All right, so here's some common questions that they might ask you. What led you to apply to this program? What are your goals? How will our training program assist you in meeting those goals? What are your strengths? And I'm not a fan of this question. I don't like to ask it, but you're going to get asked this by a lot of people. But so be prepared. Be prepared to answer these questions. Tell me about a time that you made a difference for a patient, that you made a great diagnosis, you did something extraordinary. What challenges have you faced thus far in medical school? And what would you do different if you had to do medical school all over again? So they're not necessarily trying to put you on the spot. They're just trying to learn about you, gain some insight into you, what makes you tick. They want to learn stuff about you that's not on your application. It's not written down somewhere in your application. That's not what the interview is for, is to just parse out all the stuff in your on your CV. They want to learn about you, get to the essence. They want to see what is it that motivates you to do the stuff that's on your application. What advice would you give to a new student entering your school? Okay, so there's these type of questions called behavioral questions. This is very popular. You'll get these. And what are these? These are questions about how you reacted, how you behaved in certain situations. Because what is the best predictor of how you're going to behave when you're a resident? It's how you behave before you're a resident. That the best predictor of future performance is past performance. All right, so they're going to ask. They might ask questions like, "Tell me about a time you worked effectively under pressure. Tell me about a time you made a mistake and had to tell a resident or attending. Tell me about a difficult decision that you've made. Tell me about a time you tried to accomplish something and failed. Tell me about a time when your performance was criticized. Tell me about a time when you're upset with the behavior of a team member, a faculty member." So, okay, so these are difficult questions to answer because sometimes it shows your vulnerability, right? You tell me about a time you failed. I hate to tell you about a time I failed. That's not here. I'm trying to impress you, and here you want me to tell you about a time that I failed at doing something. All right, so this is how you talk about it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, hey, there was a time we had a patient who presented with the atypical presentation of acute coronary syndrome, and I was the student, and I missed the EKG. And boy, I felt bad about that. The resident showed me what I was missing on the EKG, and I learned that my EKG interpretation skills were probably not what I wanted to be. So I took that to heart. I read the EKG book. I studied EKGs. I did some extra work at night with one of the cardiologists who agreed to sit with me while he was reviewing the EKGs from the day. And I found that I feel like that's a strength. That cardiologist actually told me that my interpretation skills are like that of a second-year resident. So I feel proud of how I was able to turn that around. So what the story that you're telling is, yes, I can identify a weakness, and now I've turned it into a strength. And tell that story. That story will resonate. Okay. So sometimes they'll ask questions that are linked to the program skills or core values. For example, a core value of a program might be resilience, and they may ask you about how you were resilient. Internal motivation. How do you go the extra mile when you could have decided not to do so? Sometimes they'll try to do this to see if you're the right fit for that program. Tell me about a time you had to deal with conflict. That's a common question, and because conflict is part of life, and how you're able to resolve conflicts and become an integral team member. That's an important skill. Okay, so there's the different types of interviews. There's the traditional one-on-one 20-minute interview or 30-minute interview. Then there's something called speed dating. All right, so I don't know anything about speed dating. I'm a married guy, but apparently what happens is you would interview with a faculty member for 10 minutes. They would ask you one question. And then you interview with another faculty member for 10 minutes. They would ask you a separate question. And you might interview with 8 faculty members. They each have one question. Now, if you're the faculty member, you ask the same question to 10 people that morning, and so I don't know. We don't do that, but there's some programs that do it. They like it. That one faculty member gets pretty skilled at asking that one question, right? That's all they do, and they get a chance to sort of parse out how people answer that question. And sometimes that question turns out to be one of the behavioral questions. I think group interviewing is very challenging. There may be a group of you, like a dozen of you, and then there'll be a group of faculty, and you're interacting in a dynamic way with the faculty members, but also you're also interacting with the other applicants. You might respond to a question or a comment that one of the applicants said in response to a question. You say, "Wow, that's a great question. Hey, I had a similar experience." It sort of becomes a conversation. Now, you don't want to dominate that conversation. On the other hand, you don't want to be left totally out. So if that's a challenging scenario. I know it's done for fellowships. It's done less for residency interviews, but it is a type of interview. Residency interviews, don't be that you might interview with some residents. All right, don't feel like, hey, that's when you can let your hair down. You can relax. You can, ask them about how much money they're going to pay for you to attend a conference. No, they can have as much or as more say about your candidacy as the faculty member. Okay, so one of the questions that they will often start out with, they might say, a faculty member will say, "Hello, my name is Dr. Chow. Hey, nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself." A very common way to open the interview. Very hard question to answer, right? Very hard to. So there's this YouTube video by from HBR's Harvard Business Review. Christine Liu does a very nice video, and it's but she does it mostly for the business field. These are people in business interviewing for business jobs, but I think a lot of it applies, and it's a nice video to to take a look at. Gives you a way to sort of get your arms around answering that question. Tell me about a case that you are involved in. So have a case in your pocket in case someone asks you to discuss a case. And so when they say, "Do you have any questions?" at the end, have some questions like, "Hey, I like this phenomenon of if you started asking questions about the program, and it's all become this whole interview is about you, the candidate, what you've accomplished, what you would like to do, how great you are, um, what a great candidate you are." And then if you turn that around a little bit and you say, I'm interested in serving the hospital. I'm interested in serving the program. I want to make the program better. All of a sudden that changes the dynamic a little bit, right? All of a sudden it takes on a more altruistic tone. So something like, "Hey, how can I, as a resident, contribute to the culture of the program? How can I improve safety? How can I contribute to performance improvement?" Um, that I think that's a good type of question. But avoid these canned questions like, "How are residents evaluated?" Uh, I don't know. I must have gotten last year a whole dozen people ask me, if I had all the money in the world, what would I how would I change the program? If I had all the money in the world, I would probably not be here changing programs. Yeah, me and Elon Musk, we'd be on speed dial. I don't know that. I don't know. Anyway, that's it's um, yeah. The question doesn't really help. Okay. We're going to move on. I hope I didn't exceed my time, Dr. Deepak, but I'm glad to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Dobbin. And I apologize to folks if you hear any children, but I'm sort of solo parenting with two young ones today. So I've done the cardinal sin of put them in front of the television, which they're very shocked and excited by. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking about how we communicate with programs. And there were already a couple points in the chat asking about pre and post interview communication. And so what I would say is I think in terms of just your overall approach when you think about communicating with programs, come at it from the lens of like, if I was the program, would I find this helpful or would I find it too much or would I find it unhelpful and maybe even a little bit annoying? I would say like try to put yourself in the heads of the people receiving your messages. And I think keep in mind that, for many programs, we are receiving somewhere between 2,000 to 5,000 applications. And so there's a lot of potential communication there that needs to be managed and it can become overwhelming. And so I would just say to start with that lens. So I think I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the regular requirements on this, and then I'm going to spend a little bit about talking about letters of intent, and then also the post-interview communication. But just in terms of what the NRMP says and what you should expect from programs as you communicate them, is that you, the applicant, after an interview, should feel free to communicate with a program if you wish. But programs are not supposed to be trying to communicate with you after an interview, meaning they should not be reaching out asking you where you're ranking them. They should not be reaching out asking you what your preferences are. There should be no undue pressure put on applicants. And so if a program is engaging that behavior, you should know that that's actually not allowed. And I would say it should first make you question whether or not you want to be in a program that's not respecting your best interests by pressuring you. And I would also say that you should feel free to report that to the NRMP because it is a violation of those rules. But so you should not be getting messages from people. I mean, you might get a message saying like, we wanted to share this exciting thing about our program, or we wanted to share this upcoming event. They can send big picture messages that go to all applicants, but they should not be messaging you specifically saying like, where are you ranking us? Things like that. And so I would say that if you don't hear from a program after your interview, do not take that to mean a lack of interest. It's likely they're just following the guidance, which is to limit post-interview communication so as to not pressure applicants or make them feel stressed. And I'll say like what we do in our interview days, I actually say like, you're not going to hear from us. Don't take that to mean we're not excited or interested, but we're following the rules. So hopefully programs will sort of share what their experience is around that. And then I would say that the point of I think I already said some of this, but the point of that policy is to really prevent you from getting pressured or feeling stressed. Because if you start getting messages from multiple programs, you're not sure what you want to say, you don't know which one you want to rank first yet. That can feel stressful for you. The other things I would say is that in general, if a program tells you during the interview day that they do not want you to send thank you notes, believe them. It's not a test. They're not trying to trap you. If they say we don't want post-interview thank yous from you, then don't send a post-interview thank you, because if you do, it just means that you're not following directions, and that's not good for anybody. But I think so. I think believe them. If they don't say it and you want to send a thank you note, like that's fine. I will say that again, programs are interviewing a lot of people, and so it's not like sending a thank you note is going to move you one way or another from a residency standpoint. If you want to, it's fine. But if they tell you not to, then please do not. Um, all right. I think I said most of that already. Okay. And then what I'd say is, again, if you're going to send the thank you, just don't expect a reply, and don't interpret a lack of response to mean a lack of interest. Again, it's just that there's a lot of people, and programs may be trying to limit how much they're communicating with applicants after the interview. And then the other thing I would say is just, it can be easy on the applicant side to somewhat overinterpret what you hear from a program, right? So you might send a thank you, or you might hear during the interview day from an interviewer like, oh, you would be such a good fit here. Or after you send a thank you note and you get a response back saying, I really enjoyed getting to talk to you. I hope you consider us strongly. It can be easy for an applicant to interpret that kind of communication to mean like they want me to come, they're ranking me, I'm going to match there. It is not what it means. Unless a program says we are ranking you to match, do not assume you're ranked to match. And it's not malintent, but I think sometimes it's just easy to overread communication that programs are having with applicants, where they're just trying to sort of be nice and supportive, and the applicant might take it to mean that they are now a guarantee for that program. So I would say don't change your list, don't change your ranking based on any communication from a program. If a program tells you, we just want to let you know that you're ranked to match, again, they shouldn't really be doing that, but they can. They're not asking you what you're ranking them. They can tell you what they're ranking you. Don't change your rank list. If you're ranked to match, it doesn't matter your ranking should not change based on the way they're ranking you. The point of the match is that you rank where you want to go. The programs rank the applicants they want, and then the computer does the work. It doesn't make sense to change your list based on what a program is telling you. You should still just rank where you want to go and go in the order of what you're interested in. All right. Let's see. I would say just in terms of if you have questions after or before your interview about a program, a really good resource are either former graduates from your medical school who went to that program, or during the interview day, some residencies will say, like, please feel free to contact our residents. Like, go ahead and take people up on that. But I think a good starting point is to ask your med schools, like, do you have a list of where former graduates have gone and their contact information? And that can be a helpful tool as well. Oh, I think I might have hit backwards instead of forward. I don't think this one is new, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the letter of intent, because I think we were talking earlier that this has sort of become a more common thing, and I'd be curious to know what Dobbin, Robin, and Colleen have sort of experienced during this. But what I would say is that in terms of letters of intent, again, I think I would keep it in the lens of thinking about like what's happening from the program standpoint. And so again, we are reviewing thousands of applications. And honestly, getting multiple letters saying I'm really interested in your program is not helpful. And often we don't really know what to do with that information. Because you could send that to anybody. You could send that to 500 programs. I have no idea what it actually means. And so that's really what signaling is meant to do. Use your signals to express your interest in a program. And because then we can say like, well, we could only signal 15 programs. So I know you didn't send signals to 500, but you could send a letter to whoever you want. So I don't really put a lot of stock in letters of intent that happen before the interview process. And so there was a question in the chat, like, should I send a letter of intent like every couple of weeks? Like, please don't do that, because it's actually just going to irritate the programs, and they are going to be frustrated. So use your signal to show your interest. The letter of intent, I don't think it really hurts unless you're sending it multiple times, but it's not going to help. It's not going to move things around in the era of signaling. In terms of post-interview communication about your interests, what I would say is, again, from a practical standpoint, it doesn't really make sense for programs to change their rank list based on what you're telling them because they don't know if you're being truthful. And also, again, the way the match works is you rank what you want, they rank what they want. You shouldn't change your ranking based on what the other party is doing. However, what I'd say is that it doesn't hurt to tell a program you are ranking them number one. It may not make any change at all or any difference. I think from a program standpoint, I don't move my rank list around based on what people are telling me, but I can feel like, okay, well, I know like that we might get this person. That can be sort of make me feel good, but that shouldn't make me change my rank list. So what I could say is I don't think it necessarily helps that much, but it doesn't hurt. And so if you want to send a message to your program saying, you're my number one, feel free. Don't expect a response back saying you're ranked to match. And again, don't interpret a lack of affirmative response to mean that they're not excited about what you've said or interested. Again, this is just them probably following the rules. But do feel free to tell a program you're ranking them number one. But what I would say is don't tell multiple programs you're ranking them number one, because if you tell a program I ranked you number one and then you don't match there, they're going to know that you weren't being truthful, and people remember that. It's such a rare occurrence that like we will remember. And then if you want to apply for fellowship and stuff, like people might be aware or recall that. So just remember the world of medicine is a small place. So be honest and truthful in your communication. The other question we sometimes get asked is, what if a program's not my number one, but I'm ranking them like number two? Should I reach out to tell them like I'm ranking you highly? And again, what I would say is that you could say that to anybody. Like you could say that to 50 programs, I'm ranking you highly. We have no idea what any of that means. So like I don't put much stock in I'm ranking you highly. All that means to me is if I get a message saying I'm ranking you highly, all I see that is, okay, you're not ranking us number one. This is not helpful information to me, and I don't do anything with it. So I would say from that standpoint, like again, I do think that could actually hurt you saying I'm ranking you highly, but I'm not ranking you number one, because I think you're actually telling that program you're not ranking them at the top of your list. I think saying I'm ranking you number one probably doesn't help that much, but it definitely won't hurt. Saying I'm ranking you number one, you're not ranking the number one will hurt, and say I'm ranking you highly, I think could be hurtful. So I actually wouldn't do that. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Dr. Ravi, Colleen, anything else that you all think of from your perspective in terms of some of the communication?
So this letter of intent is not a thing. It's not an accepted thing. It's not. I don't know where it came from. There was a time it didn't exist, and then all of a sudden, a few years ago, I started getting all these letters of intent. I was wondering, where the heck did this come from? And what I mean by it's not a thing is meaning, okay, so if I get one, how do I know you didn't send it to all 20 places that you interviewed at? It's how sincere is it? I don't. So yeah, I'm not sure how much meaning programs will put into it. You, it, I don't think it's that helpful. You, it's If you like a program, hey, just say, hey, I like the program. But I don't know that you have to formalize it into this letter of intent thing, because I'm not sure what exactly that is. So that's all. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, I agree. My inbox is just blowing up with tons and tons of LOIs, and it's just hard to keep track of all the different people. We haven't even interviewed these people, so I think it's incredible going through this process. When you interview people, you remember a lot of things about people, right? But getting these LOIs before even looking at the applications, it really doesn't do anything. Our inboxes get so filled up with so many emails that it just gets pushed down. So I think it's not a great use of your time and effort and mental energy. What Dr. Chow, Dr. Chida have mentioned here is what you should put your energy or your mental bandwidth to use, making the best application that you can to submit to programs.
Yeah. And then there's a question in the chat about personal statements that I can point out. And should you write tailored personal statements? Again, I think you could do that for every program. So I don't think it hurts, but again, I'm not sure in the era of signaling it helps that much. I think if you want to do it do it for just a couple programs. If you start writing personalized statements for every program you apply to, you're going to get confused and you're going to send the wrong one to a program. And that's going to be worse. So I think if you want to do it, maybe do it for just a few programs. But again, I think for us, like I'm really looking now at just the signals. And if you didn't signal us and then you write me a personalized personal statement, I just feel like that's, not genuine because then you would have just signaled us. And so I think if you want to do that again, it probably won't hurt, but I'm not sure how much it helps and it can get confusing for you. If you do choose to do that, I would give some specifics about why that program is interesting. Like, do you have a reason you need to be in that geographic place? Is there something specific about the program that you really enjoy? Like, try to get specific if you're going to do that. But I would say from our standpoint, we don't have that expectation that people are going to write, personal statements that are standard that are specific to programs because we know you're applying to a lot of places and we know that's a lot of work for you and we don't want it to be extra. So again, I think it probably doesn't hurt. I don't know how much it helps.
I Are you done,
Yes, done.
Natasha? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So, would like to thank all of y'all for your for all the different aspects and expertise that you brought into the table. I've kind of collated a lot of questions, and I think we have referred to it, but it may be worth reiterating some of these things. And then there was for some of the questions was about the geographic location. And do we select no preference? And I think y'all address that. And again, if you want to just reiterate about geographic preference, basically what everyone said is that if you have a geographic preference, indicate it. If you don't really have a preference, it's okay to not have it. And think about many things in terms of geographic preference. I have a question to ask all three of you. In today's world, if we are looking at things around us, are there something specific that you would be looking into when you're also indicating geographic preference?
I've seen some applicants not signal, but then signal geography, or they signal, but then they don't signal the geography. And to me, I interpret that as trying to kind of game the system. So I think for applicants, what you should know from the geographic signaling standpoint is if you select no preference, we see that. If you select our geographic region, we see it. But if you select a geographic region that is not us, we just see a blank space. So if on our standpoint we see a blank space, it means to us you either didn't answer the question, which is a red flag, you should answer that question, or you didn't signal our geographic region. So if I see that it's blank, but you signaled my program, I kind of know that means that you're just trying to sort of spread out your ways of communicating with programs. So I would say if you have multiple programs you're highly interested in that do not fit 3 regions, then just select no preference. But if like 80% of the programs you're interested in are within 3 regions, select the preference of those regions. But just know that on our standpoint, we can tell if you have not selected our geographic region. Or again, it means that you just didn't fill out the form.
Yeah, I just want to add to that with the geographic. What's interesting, we're not in a location which is really hot or really cold. So say you're coming from California to Wisconsin, where it gets really cold. Are you interested? Did you signal our area or did you just spread, like Dr. Chida said, just spread your applications like that? Because coming from Southern California to Wisconsin, that's a big change in climate. Will you be able to tolerate the harsh winters? So in that case, that does really pay or is significant in that way. But I think also because we're with Florida, some people want to go to Florida, but we're lumped in with Florida as well. So it's kind of weird with the geographic is signaling for us.
So the next couple of questions that came through was all about experiences and importance of listing all 10 experiences. What exactly do we include under most meaningful experiences? And would you recommend to put hobbies under experiences? And I think y'all covered all of it, but if you want to say a few words.
I thought the hobby section had been removed, but then I think it got put back. Is it back yet?
It's back. Yeah, it
It's
just
back
came
this
back.
year.
It was removed 2 years ago, but it's back now.
Yeah.
Because I think people started using the boxes, but then everybody loved the hobbies section, so they brought it back.
I remember it was a contentious discussion at AIM that the hobbies had. What I would say is now that we have a hobby section, I would put your hobbies in the hobby section and don't put them in the experiences section because there's a place for the hobbies. So put the hobbies there, I'd say. Unless the hobby is more than a hobby, it's like something that actually shapes who you are as a person and it speaks to your narrative about who you are, then put in the experiences. But if it's like, I like to, rollerblade, don't put that in the experiences section.
Yeah. And then I think we've discussed a lot about signaling and how important it is. And then another question is a couple of questions about step scores and how many years out are you from graduating. So, how can you craft a school list if your step score is much below target? It's only one component, but it is used to screen out applicants in early stages. And then there was this concern about could you please discuss on how program directors view applicants with with an older year of graduation greater than 5 years, and that has come up quite a bit.
I can address that. I think if you're out of medicine for a while, and I'm not sure what a while is, but if you're out of medicine for a while, the medical science that you learned in medical school will have changed, and you may not be as fresh, as up to date as other students who are just recent graduates. Your clinical skills may not be as sharp. But if you've done things to maintain your clinical skills, if you've done things to maintain your medical knowledge, then that's helpful. If you stayed in the clinical realm, then that's helpful. I know some people do research fellowships. They do a PhD, hey, that's really impressive. Um, yeah, that's not a bad thing. But after you're engaged in research, if you've also sort of kept your hand in the clinical sphere, you continue to maybe sit in on some clinical experiences. I just mentioned that so that we won't feel like you're going to come in to residency and be you need a lot of refreshing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chow, for that. There is a question about bullet points and paragraphs work to describe experiences in ERA's application from your combined perspective, which is the best?
I don't think it makes much difference. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another unique question about is it okay to reach out to inquire about open houses or mixers?
Oh, okay. So I think that's a good question. So some places will have open houses, and they're usually virtual, and you join, and there'll be residents, and you learn about the program, and you can figure out, is that a program I want to apply to? Yeah, that's absolutely that's fine. It won't necessarily change your candidacy. It's more of an opportunity for you to learn about the program. There's this new phenomenon that's going to happen this year. It's a pilot program where programs pledge that they will send in their rank list, and then they'll hold a open house that's in person, and then you can come to the program, you can visit, you can look around, you can maybe attend a conference, or you can get a sense for the environment. It won't affect your candidacy because they will have already submitted the rank list. So this will happen in February, in the February timeframe. That's some programs, they've elected to participate in this kind of pilot program. and then some have not. So some programs have done that. They will let you know if they've done that. It's only the people who've interviewed at that program can participate in this post-interview, submission of rank list, and then it'll help you decide your own rank list. If you go there and you really love the food, and you like how the conference room is shaped, hey, that may be the right place for you.
Dr. Chow, I just want to add to that. Yeah, social media is a very powerful way of looking in on programs. A lot of programs actually have social media pages, Instagram, X. Actually, a lot of them do also announce open houses. From time to time, I see open house from a program being listed there. So those are good ways of scoping out programs. And on the flip side, I also would make sure everybody's maintaining a good social media presence as well, because there are programs, I don't know who has the time to do that, but there are programs that will look at people's social media posts to determine how is this person a good fit for our program.
I'd also say if you're going to inquire about an open house, I would ask the program coordinators. Do not email the program director. I know sometimes I think people are emailing us because they think it shows their interest. But again, like, we are flooded, and it's just one more email in the inbox. So if you are really inquiring because you're actually trying to understand if there's an open house, then message the program coordinators. Do not message the program directors.
Yeah, those are important points. I think there was a couple of questions about AI, some of which Colleen has already addressed, but specific questions that we can use AI for proofreading and paraphrasing the statements. And I think you also addressed that, right, Natasha, about rewriting it in your own words. I will just say that in today's world of AI, we know when you have used AI to write anything. It's very evident. So please be very careful about using AI for everything and not rewriting it in your own words. There's a question about social media. Is it viewed negatively if an applicant is not active on social media?
No.
Yeah. Some of us don't want to be in there. Yes. There was this very long question about residency in the home country, and it's a very rich experience with multiple aspects of teaching, research, volunteer. Uh, Even though it's in the same time period, should it then go into different experiences? Soham, do you want to unmute and ask this specific question?
I can take a stab at it. I mean, I think it depends on what you're describing. So, I think if you're putting in that you were a teacher because you had students with you on the wards as a resident, like, that is apparent that you were trying to make something into experience that's really just part of your residency. I think if as part of your residency, you, for example, were engaged in research and were working on something longitudinally, that is a separate experience, and you should put that in as its own experience. So I think it depends on what you're talking about. If it's aspects that are common that everyone in the program is doing as part of the training that you're doing, I would not separate those out into separate things. But if you did something different during your program or extra during your program that others did not, I would put that as a separate experience.
Yeah, just to add to Dr. Chida's comment there. So those experiences you can use, say, people have been mentioning year of graduation, greater than 5 years. So say you've done this training in another country or research or PhD. I would use one of those selected 10 experiences to explain that. Why, or say somebody mentioned lower step score, maybe explain in one of those boxes, why did you get that step score? Maybe you did something to remedy that and did really well in another maybe examination, or maybe you took a step 3 and did very well in that. So I would definitely highlight those in one of those experiences.
Then there is a question about ECFMG certification. How do PDs review applicants for the ECFMG certification, given that there's gross delays in it? And will they consider the applications even if they're not ECFMG certified during interview season?
So you don't need to be ECFMG certified to interview. You do need to be ECFMG certified at the time of the program ranking. When we rank someone, we put your name in there, and then it'll automatically check to see if you're ECFMG certified. So that the ranking occurs in February. If you're ECFMG certified in February, then you're good to go. But at the time of interview, it's not necessary.
And then there is a question about, say, if you don't match and if you have a gap and you're not sure, does it have to be medical related work or research during that time? And since that's difficult, how do you fill the gap period?
Yeah, that's a good comment. A good question. First of all, hey, there's nothing wrong with working. Look, I don't know what. It seems like all the medical students are independently wealthy. They don't need to worry about work. I don't know. The loans are coming due. You got bills to pay. You may have to work, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Work is fine. In terms of clinical experience, of research experience, it depends on your career trajectory. If your career trajectory is that you want to become an academic um, gastroenterologist or academic pulmonologist, and you may want to get that research experience and that will become part of your legacy, your story. On the other hand, if your interest is in clinical medicine and practicing medicine, getting some clinical experience is fine. And if you have zero research experience, that's not a negative. There's great, wonderful doctors who practice medicine and don't have research experience and research interest. They just want to be good clinicians, and the more experience you might have is fine. But do address the gaps. Don't leave them blank. If you have a blank in your application, that's a red flag. You should just acknowledge that whatever you did, that maybe you took some time out because there was a sick someone in your family was ill. You took time out to help them. That's fine. Just mention that, but don't leave a gap. People will assume that you were in the penitentiary for those 9 months. I don't know. So just be forthcoming about that.
Um, I think Ravina has a question.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for arranging this virtual. My question is that about the year of graduation. How can we does the program filter the old grades? Because most of the on their website or Residency Explorer, they mention that the year of graduation is mostly either 3 or either 5. If someone is more than 5 and they are clinically active in their home country, not doing residency but working as a general practitioner, how the program director see that applicant in that kind of case? That's mine. That's why I'm asking. Thank you, everyone.
So you can filter based on years out, and it is so there's a thing called filter, by the way. We can filter for people who have a step score greater than 240. We can filter for I can filter for people who are went to medical school in the state of Maryland. It's very it's a very nice tool, and so you can filter for a number of years out from medical school, and each program will do things differently. Again, as I said, we like to see what you did during that time, not that the absolute time is hard and fast, but there's each programs can be different and it will answer that question differently. But they can use that filter in a way to screen out or screen in applicants.
Yeah, I just want to
Yeah.
add to that was interesting that the signals have kind of changed the dynamic because like what I did last year, so I was interim PD. I didn't really use these filters. I just looked at, first of all, start with who is interested in our program, look at gold, look at silver. And there were people that were YOG 15 years. I'm looking at their applications, so they weren't signal or filtered out, but what did they do in that meantime? And there were some really remarkable people, and one of them I was very interested in ended up at a premier institution. So some of these people that have a YOG 15 years, they've done a lot of things, which could be research or could be running organizations in the country, doing certain things that catch your interest. So, yeah, I think if you have a unique sort of circumstance as to why YOG was more than 5-10 years, and you've been doing something useful, and you have those attributes that we are looking for, I think definitely you could be competitive. But I think the signal really has sort of changed the game, and definitely will bring your application. It will definitely raise our antennas in regards to your application.
There was another question about, could you please share how setting preferences, urban, suburban, or rural, are taken into account during the selection process, if at all?
I think it's probably used most for programs that are in rural settings. Because I think it's more common for an applicant to be interested in suburbs or city than it is rural. And so if you are truly interested in a rural setting, and you're applying to mainly rural programs, I would use it. But I think otherwise we don't, from our perspective, we don't do much with it, to be honest. I mean, if someone says they want to do rural and then they apply to a program in Baltimore, that doesn't really fit very well. Um, so I think you could leave that blank, or you could select rural if you're interested in rural.
And then there was another question about the rotations. If you've done rotation in multiple hospitals, do you still signal them? I think y'all answered that as a yes, and that is answered. And I think as much as possible, can you place it in the chat so everyone can see it? But I see Sebastian has his hand raised.
Yeah. First, thank you so much. This is the first time attending to this ICP meeting like this, and I think has been amazing. So my question basically is, what do you recommend to applicants to put into their personal statement? What it's important to highlight based on your experience that you really want to read in a personal statement?
So maybe I'll start. I like to see what makes you tick. What's your passion? What are you interested in? I can see on your CV all the stuff you've accomplished, but why did you pursue those line of accomplishments? Uh, why did you pursue that research fellowship? Why did you decide to do that externship? What's underlying all of that? And what's your future career goal? I'm I don't know why people you tell me if I'm wrong. I think people have been told, don't put down that you want to become a cardiologist, or that you want to become a nephrologist. Even though that's your career passion, you wake up in the morning, that's what you want to do. I If that's what you want to do, gosh, put it down. I don't know. There was, because then during the interview, I will ask. I'll say, "Gee, what's your future career aspiration?" And then it's like a big reveal. Oh, I want to be an interventional cardiologist. Oh, God bless you. That's a good career. But why? Don't hide it. Don't be shy. Own it and tell us about it.
And then the key is to not seem like you're only focused on one thing and you're not going to enjoy the rest of the experience. I think there's a way to say that you want to do interventional cardiology without making it seem like you're going to hate everything else in your 3 years of training. So I think things like, I'm at this point, I'm excited about cardiology. I'm excited to explore all of medicine. But right now, this is my interest. I think like that's sort of a good, and I agree with Dobbin. I would rather have a sense that someone has a interest than they haven't thought about their future at all.
You just add to this topic of personal statements. I think what I have learned this previous AIM meeting, there was a discussion on that. So people should keep it to one page, because reading many applications, having 2 page, somebody sent me a 2 page personal statement. I was like, you have to cut it down to 1 page, because we're not going to remember. And the most impactful part of that personal statement is probably the opening paragraph. That's where you have to invest like 50% of your time. I think a lot of times the best personal statements make an effect on me, and are very memorable in that first paragraph, and I will remember that or note about that. And the most common recurring theme always is, why do I want to do medicine? Is because a family member, which is fine. But is there anything else that drives your passion? What is your passion? What is your mission? What drives you? What gets you up every morning to go and learn? What experience brought you to us? So that should be in that first paragraph.
And in the
So this
sorry.
is not a good place to be creative. Like, don't try to make something unusual in your statement. Like, someone once submitted a haiku. Don't do that. Like, be honest, be clear, as I was saying, like, describe what you want to be and why. But this is not a place to get unique and creative, because it will rarely it may not help, but it'll hurt you if you make it odd or weird. So don't do that.
So in the interest of time, it's 7:59. Thank you everyone for this wonderful session. Thank you for our faculty members, Dr. KhunKhun, Dr. Chida, Dr. Chow, our governor, Dr. Christmas, and thanks to all the attendees for attending. This was wonderful. We wish you all the best. We are there to support you with any questions. This recording will be available on YouTube after a certain amount of time, and hope you've enjoyed it and learned something new from it. Thank you.